player who produced one of the most remarkable deciding frame victories we've seen at the Crucible yesterday, beating the brilliant Anthony McGill to make this his maiden appearance in the final. 3 times a ranking event winner. Make no mistake, this is the biggest match of his life. So come on, Sheffield, raise the roof for the warrior, Kyren Wilson. His opponent, once again, returning to the stage he's helped make so famous for a quarter of a century. What a comeback against Selby last night to book a 7th appearance in a world final. The most decorated Triple Crown player in history and 5 times a world champion, the Rocket, Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Good afternoon, Jason. Good afternoon, everyone. And you could tell by the players' faces and their smiles to walk into the Crucible Theatre with the crowd there, Steve. It may be a third full, but isn't it brilliant to have them here for this wonderful final?
Yeah, just amazing. Didn't think it would happen.
Thanks, guys.
Two remarkable...
The usual trademark cue ball control from O'Sullivan, which has been lacking in Kyren Wilson's game. And I go back to the second frame of the day. Having made such a good start to win the first, he had a great chance to clear up after O'Sullivan. But he hasn't been able to apply that pressure. And O'Sullivan now 7 clear with just a couple still to come this afternoon. We're bound to have a final session, but the way things are going, it could be painfully brief from Kyren Wilson's point of view. We've seen that rueful smile many times over the last day and a half, but inside he'll be hurting because he's not been able to produce his champagne snooker when he needed it most today. First-time pro Wilson in 2010, fell off the tour straight away and was off it for a couple of years, which made him readdress his priorities and made him realise just how hard he had to work at his game to make a success of his career. He's certainly done that and continues to do it. But perhaps this match is just showing him how much further he still has to travel to become the complete player, to become the kind of player good enough to beat someone like O'Sullivan over 4 sessions in a Crucible final. There's his wife, Sophie, who's been through the mill of late. She's been a tremendous support to him. She would love to have seen him lift that trophy. Well, you can never say never, but what a job he's got on his hands now.
One.
Once again, a very big test of his cueing. He normally is a very straight cue through the ball. I mean, if you could pick a shot that anyone was likely to get, I think Kyren would be your man for that sort of a shot.
7.
Cue goes through in a good line.
8.
Just wonder if he'll take a risk here and get the bunch open, try and make things happen. Doesn't have to, but it could be one way of stopping the cue ball and getting reds into play. I don't think he's going to. He's going at the top of the cue ball. He's not playing it into them. So now he's a little further away from his next red.
14.
There you see it. Problems are not going away. That
Kyren was
positionally,
14.
he's having to play too many difficult shots in a row, and in the end, something goes wrong.
It's tough to keep believing, isn't it, at this stage, to be 7 behind to O'Sullivan. Tough to keep those demons at bay.
Certainly played a good cue ball there. A little disorganised opening to this frame. That's a good shot. That's very nicely done. He's not on the colour all that well, but it's a nice pot. Now he's got to make something happen here. Got to find a bit of inspiration in the 2 remaining frames. He has to win both of them. I said he had to win the last 3. Of course, he didn't win the last, but now absolutely essential that he takes something into tonight, or else it is just a question of what time it'll end.
Well, you know when Wilson starts to err with the rest that all is not well.
Kyren Wilson, 1.
Trying to stay positive mentally, but it's much easier said than done in these circumstances he finds himself in.
1.
Got a chance here to really get these reds open, and he's got reds out in open play already. There's a chance to basically win the frame here almost in one shot. I'm amazed he didn't go into them there. Maybe he thought that the angle on the red he was going to play would have been a bit thin.
8.
The strategy must be different.
9. 16. 17.
Oh, this time I'm sure he will. Red to the middle, is it on?
24.
Must be tight. Oh, well, yeah, it is on. Definitely will go.
25.
There's been nothing wrong with O'Sullivan's cueing at short range today.
And once again, his cue ball control is, I mean, that maybe it's
32.
been highlighted more because Kyren's has been a little bit weak, but we should really concentrate on the positives and celebrate just the way that O'Sullivan and the touch he has in amongst the balls is still there. It's quite delightful to watch the way that he manoeuvres the cue ball onto the next shot. And so well, so effortlessly. And you can see him make a break, and you can think, well, he hasn't played one difficult shot in that break, and that's because
41.
But he's still the benchmark when it comes to forensic cue ball control.
you know, he had to take a risk there, so for once he has a little bit more to do to get it from colour to red. But he's done it with consummate ease.
43.
Tough times for Kyren Wilson. He had very high hopes coming into this final that he had what it took to get the better of O'Sullivan.
44.
He's finding out that it's one of the toughest tasks in the sport.
There's still a bit to do, only 35 in front.
51.
But a couple of reds in open play once again, and things really have gone badly. I think the third session in the four-session match can really move a match on, and while O'Sullivan led overnight, he's pressing the point home this afternoon.
57.
It looks like O'Sullivan's sixth frame on the spin.
58.
It looked like being a very different afternoon with the way Wilson started. But the excellence of that first frame couldn't quite be maintained, and O'Sullivan has found a couple of extra gears and is now sprinting towards the winning post.
$72. Ronnie O'Sullivan. 72. No, it's not.
Well, he said that as though he hoped it would be, and
Next one.
he probably does want to get out of there right now. He's got one more frame to go. Ronnie O'Sullivan 2 frames away from history and a record-breaking 37th ranking title. Rather sums up his afternoon, which started in such encouraging fashion, but that opening frame has turned out to be as good as it's got.
One.
We're still waiting for our 80th century of the tournament. Of course, we had 100 last year, which was a record. We had 11 centuries in the final. 7 of them made by Judd Trump. But if we have one more, that'll be a £25,000 bonus from our sponsors Betfred to the Jessie May Children's Hospice, World Snooker's charity.
9.
Can O'Sullivan put the icing on the cake of what has been a tremendous afternoon for him?
Please.
Marcel Eckhart just needing a little bit of time here because the pink won't spot down the centre. Ronnie just sits down and waits for this to be completed. Yeah, I say his concentration has been exceptional. He's won such a hugely damaging string of frames this afternoon, having lost the first. Kyren came out firing. Ronnie's giving him a bit of a lesson now of cue ball control match play.
Slightly rolled back, you're right, yeah. Slightly rolled back.
Ronnie's an absolute stickler, clearly, for everything to be right. The pink might have rolled onto the red, which means there's not actually as it should be. There needs to be a gap. I wouldn't get too worried about it if I was Ronnie. I would just get on with the game.
Want me to do it again? It's not touching now. No.
I think he should just get on with the game now. I think he might have been concerned that the pink would have wanted it to be potable. And if it was touching the red, it just could be that it isn't.
16.
Say potable, I meant to the right corner.
23.
He won 2 of his World Finals, 18-8. Including 2004, when, of course,
24.
he was 5-0 down at one stage to Graham Dott, won 18 of the last 21 frames. And that was the year that he was working with the great Ray Reardon, whom he holds in the highest esteem. And I think if he does go on to complete victory, it would be extra special to have matched Reardon's tally of 6.
This shot, the bunch were very difficult to get into, especially from where he was, because he wasn't perfectly behind the blue. So there you have it.
Sullivan, 20.
You're not taking anything lightly.
As he said to Colin ahead of this final, it's not about the money, it's about getting his name on that famous World Championship trophy. But he's still only 28. And I'm sure he'll take a great deal from his first Crucible final experience as he bids to come back and go one better, if indeed it is to be the runners-up check, as now looks highly likely.
Now the pots at range are going in. There's somebody that can play left-handed. You know, the brown with his opposite hand up the table is not such a difficult shot as it would be for others.
It looks like your pre-tournament prediction is going to come true, Neil. A lot of people were questioning your sanity a few months ago when you tipped Ronnie for the title.
Yes, one of the home nations events it was. I can't think of whether it was in Scotland pre-Christmas or just after it in Cardiff in Wales, and I said that maybe the quiet nature of the season would bring him here fresh, although I must say, of course, we have had a pandemic since then. We couldn't have predicted exactly the path of when the person was going to lift that trophy and who it would be, but I'd never written him off, and there's only one reason for it. He's still one of the very great players in the game. I think most of us had accepted that Judd Trump had kind of become the number one. No one could argue with the amount of ranking points he had. Ronnie a little selective in the tournaments he's played in, although he'd have played in more if he had the chance to.
Well, all the great names are on there. Steve Davis 6 times, Hendry of course 7. The great Alex Higgins, who won one of the great iconic moments of this sport in '82 when he brought his daughter Lauren onto the stage, having defeated Reardon after beating Jimmy White in one of the most extraordinary matches ever seen at the Crucible. And that 69 break to deny Jimmy in the penultimate frame. And it looks as though O'Sullivan's going to get his name on there for the 6th time.
Just a little bit awkward here. I'll run this in awkward bridging. Like all the rest, though, in it goes. It's one interesting piece of trivia, which may still come true. There's never been a final 1-18-10. In all the Crucible finals, no one has won by that scoreline. At the moment, it could well be that it still won't happen that way. But whichever way it is, I just can't think of a way that Kyren Wilson could come back into it now. He'd have to win this frame for a start, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
A red and a black would do.
32.
He's very critical of himself, but I really think O'Sullivan has played quite beautifully today. Well, all of a sudden he misses one, put the curse on him.
RonnieO'Sullivan, 32.
Yeah, that was frame ball. That came out of the blue. Remarkable. He's missed very little today. Don't think anyone saw that one coming, least of all Kyren Wilson.
No, he had a couple of those that he missed in the earlier match. Ronnie missed a couple of blacks, like the one that we've just seen in his match against Mark Williams in the middle session.
1.
Of course, don't forget, he did trail 6-2 in that match. You know, he's behind. He was struggling a little bit. Now, Kyren Wilson has been through the mill this afternoon. He's been on the wrong end of all of this. He'll have to pull up a clearance from his boots here to win this frame, I think. Has he held the spot? Pretty close.
6.
It's a good pot. Can he summon the blood for one last big effort to give himself just a sliver of hope for this evening? Oh, no.
Kyren Wilson, 7.
It's the greatest place on earth to play snooker, but it can be the toughest environment when you're struggling.
1.
We saw Kyren Wilson's reaction at the end of the previous frame. He was hoping, I think, that it was the last of the session.
He must be feeling pretty good about himself. Yeah, I mean, even the greatest comeback in the world we've ever seen in the game is not going to get Kyren Wilson back into this tonight. The session's about to end, and it does.
Kyren Wilson concedes, and it looks as though this evening's final session is going to be a lap of honour for the 5-time champion Ronnie O'Sullivan. He's 17-8 ahead.
Kyren Wilson to get the final session of the World Championship final underway, trailing 17-8. He won the first frame this afternoon and had a chance to win the second, but after losing that, it all went against him. His highest break for the rest of the afternoon was only 29. That tells its own story. O'Sullivan was here at 9 o'clock this morning practicing. He looked a bit flat, a bit tired maybe last night, but he's turned it around. And for him, just one more frame. And we've seen comebacks, Joe, over the years. It just seems impossible to see one this evening. You've got to win 10-0.
Yeah, it seems impossible. You wouldn't think that it was 17-8, the score, because the crowd was so emotional then when the players were coming into the arena. And they'd have felt that elation that they felt early doors. Good kiss on the brown there from O'Sullivan.
Yes, and he's had a taste of the best occasion you can play in snooker, so I'm sure will fill him in motivation to come back stronger.
Just a little shorter pace on the cue ball there. He might just be tempted at this red to the right corner, O'Sullivan, with that big lead. Yeah, good shot.
One.
It's a pink ball. It does.
Well, 2001 was his first world title, 19 years ago now. #1 album in the UK was Destiny's Child, Survivor, which seems very apt, doesn't it? Because it was his destiny when he was young to be world champion. We all knew about Ronnie O'Sullivan when he was a boy. And he is a survivor. Everything that's happened on and off table over the last 2 decades, and he's still going strong at the top of the sport. But he's missed that black, so that's the first chance he's had to kill it off, and it's gone wrong.
Yes, he was just awkward on the red that he was close to. He was very close to it, slightly bridging over, and he had to play it at speed for the red to the middle. So, yeah, good chance that.
Well, I know one thing, even though there'll be a lot of O'Sullivan supporters here, they'll want Kyren Wilson to rally a little. They paid their money. He's lost the white right in the middle of the pack.
Well, that's a disaster. He caught the wrong red, that's why he's finished like that.
Just little clues it might not be his night. Yeah, as I say, the audience, you know, they didn't even know, even a few days ago, that they could come tonight. They'll be hoping for as much snooker as Kyren Wilson can summon up, but this is not a promising position.
Bramble.
Nominating brown, so he shouldn't leave a red on, even if he misses it. Yeah, good shot.
Kyren Wilson won.
But by hitting that side of the brown, he's left a long red on to the right corner. Had he caught the brown full, he wouldn't have been able to see this red. Right in the middle of the pocket. So another chance for O'Sullivan.
One.
Six world titles gets him level with Ray Reardon, who is a former coach of his. He helped him the second time he won the world title, 2004. And of course Steve Davis, his boyhood snooker idol. But it's the span, isn't it? It's the 19-year span, which is the really remarkable thing.
Yeah, for 3 decades, it's unbelievable really, isn't it?
Well, the only other player who's done it in the World Championship over that length was Joe Davis, the first champion. 1927 he won his first title. 19 years later he won his 15th and promptly retired. But the game is vastly different now to how it was then, clearly.
Seven.
Well, that's the score he's got to get to, 61 points to be world champion.
Yes, and what a world championship
15.
it would be to win. A tournament that may never have been on. It was, of course, postponed initially. A lot of work, and we must pay tribute to World Snooker Tour and their partners. A lot of work has gone into not only staging it, but staging it safely. They've accomplished that. And what a tournament. I remember the very first frame we did, Joe, on the first morning, it's a long time ago now, Tom Ford nearly had a maximum. That set the tone for what's been a fascinating tournament, even though the final is one-sided. The event itself has been superb.
Yeah, everybody I've spoke to has said what a great tournament it's been. Coverage has been fantastic. The players been superb. This man, he's got out of jail a few times,
28.
especially with Selby.
29.
It's just a shame about the final being so one-sided, but you know, that's because of O'Sullivan's ability.
The trophy waiting in the background.
36.
7 years since Ronnie O'Sullivan won the title.
37.
The other thing to say, of course, is he would go past Stephen Hendry's record of ranking
44.
titles. 37 to Hendry's 36.
45.
Well, he's 2 balls away.
Needed 2 chances, but it doesn't look like he's made any mistake on the second chance.
No.
Enjoy this man while you can.
Absolutely, the moment has come.
50.
It's a quick kill.
51.
Can he end with a century? That would end the championship on a real high note. If anyone could do it, it's this man. Kyren Wilson,
58.
of course, had a bye in the first round, had that emotional semi-final against Anthony McGill. But it just started to go wrong for him this afternoon.
And wasn't it nice to see Kyren Wilson clapping O'Sullivan on frame and match ball there? What a gentleman, what a sportsman.
66.
And what a shot.
67.
He's trying for the crowd.
There's never been anyone like him. Oldest champion since Ray Reardon, 1978, but the way he's playing, he could go on and on and on.
71.
Check. Beautiful shot. Beautiful shot.
76. 78.
So
81.
these final 4 balls to end the championship with his 13th century. And get his hands on the cheque for £500,000, his biggest ever payday from
85.
snooker. .96 to finish. The unique, the unconventional, the irrepressible, the brilliant Ronnie O'Sullivan stands once again on top of the snooker world. This colossus of the Green Bays has conquered the Crucible for a 6th time. Well, it didn't last long, did it? That last frame, just 10 minutes. That was the evening session, just 10 minutes and 96. He's beaten Kyren Wilson 18-8. What a remarkable achievement. He struggled, of course, in recent years at the Crucible.
Lady who's been waiting for a kiss for 7 years, would you please raise the trophy? You are the 2020 Betfred World Snooker Champion.
Well, it was short and sweet in the end, but it's still a fairy tale ending. The fact this tournament was on at all credit goes to the organisers. And look at that for a picture. The greatest snooker player of all time. You know, when we're all old and grey and looking back in our lives, we can say we were there to see him do it.